Hello, my name is Liam Horan from Planet Youth, and last night, Thursday, the 20th of August 2020, we had a very good webinar with clinical psychologist Dr Malie Coyne, who's on the screen here again today. The title of this webinar was Schools Back, and it was to support parents of primary school children as they set about going back to school, which is now imminent, and of course with COVID-19 is the subject of much controversy, much doubt, much uncertainty, and parents are trying to navigate their way through that. And Malie, first of all, you're very welcome again to this recording.
Thank you, Liam. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I suppose the first question is, based on what you saw last night at the webinar, because you attended and offered some advice, and from your work in general, how do you think parents are feeling about their children's return to school?
I think parents are feeling an awful lot of feelings at the moment, Liam. There's just so much going on. Every time I turn on the radio, there's more talk about school, and that obviously we have the changing restrictions, and parents just feeling, I suppose this is a time of kind of uncertainty and anxiety, anyway, on any given year, but I think none more so than this year, because they don't, there's some uncertainty still about how they're going to go back safely, what that's going to look like. Some parents have had loads of information from schools, some parents have not. And the picture is continually changing. Some parents last night expressed, the kind of fear of, what if my child goes back to school and then the school closes again in a few weeks' time? Other parents about, like, say, if my child gets sick, how is the school going to manage that? How are they going to tell the difference between a child who has normal sniffles and a child who might have COVID-19? And also how the children will be welcomed back to school. And actually, that was a really interesting point I hadn't thought about before, but parents really felt that the way the school welcomes the children back will have a huge impact on how the children adapt to being back in school. So if the school are very warm and welcoming, whilst teachers obviously can't give children hugs, as they might have done with younger kids and things, they won't be able to do that same level of maybe physical contact. That certainly, if children are welcomed back, even up to the days leading up to school. I mean, I've heard of one school in Galway, I think, ringing parents, the principal ringing all the parents to see how they're feeling. And I think that's amazing. And I'm not saying every school is in a position to do that, but what I'm saying is it's about creating an atmosphere where children and parents are welcomed. And whilst parents, I know, can't go into the school building, that parents have somewhere, a point of contact for understanding what's going to be happening, if they have any fears leading up to this or uncertainties, and that parents have someone to contact, as the school goes back and they have questions maybe to answer for that. So I think there was a lot of kind of uncertainty for parents, but then there's also a kind of a sense of, for me, and for lots of parents, with, kind of relief that children are going back to school, feeling like, it's time for them to get back to a routine. It's time for them to get back to their education, time for them to be with their friends again. That, little did we know when our kids finished school on the 12th of March, they wouldn't be going back for 6 months. So that there's this big sense of children need to get back to school. But it's just the uncertainty about what that's going to look like.
That uncertainty, of course, extends to teachers as well, because for them it's uncharted territory too. So there are a lot of moving parts here, increasing that uncertainty.
There are, and I think, I kind of tried to emphasize that last night, is that, whilst people might be, getting kind of het up about what's going to happen and what's that going to be like, I think teachers and principals and school staff and they don't exactly know what that's going to be like either. So I think we need to kind of try to be patient with one another and to kind of understand that this is new uncharted territory for everybody, and so therefore hopefully that kind of open communication can continue to happen. But there are some parents last night who expressed kind of particular worry maybe over a junior infant child that they can't go into the classroom with, as parents always would have done with junior infant children, or a child with asthma who, gets symptoms, of coughing anyway during any kind of period, and or children who might be anxious anyway, and how that might be particularly difficult for them. So I think, it's not easy, but I think we all need to be patient with one another.
Yes, children, as somebody made the point last night, take their lead from their parents as well. They pick up on parents' mood, etc. Overall, from your work, how do you feel children are feeling about this return right now? How would you depict their state of mind? It's a wild generalization, I know.
Yeah. I think that, again, as with parents' feelings, where there's lots of feelings going on, there's lots of feelings going on for children at the moment as well. I think lots of kids are really excited about going back, and, they're into getting their little school bags and their pencil cases and everything ready. My own kids are even talking about what they'll wear on their first day of school and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of, imagine you've been off school for 6 months, they're ready to go back. Usually a summer holiday, they'd be ready to go back after 2 months, and they've been off for 6 months. So I think a lot of kids are ready to kind of to face into this. And I think, as parents, we need to be aware that they're they're really strong, and they managed the lockdown, as did we. And so I think we should be confident in them that they will be able to manage, but obviously we can help them through that. But then there are other kids who really have enjoyed being at home. They've enjoyed the quieter pace of life. For kids who might be a bit socially anxious, they've benefited from not having to have as many interactions. So some kids might be feeling quite anxious about it, and quite worried about what that's going to be like. But certainly, if the parent is quite anxious, I think it will impact on the child. And I think parents are acutely aware of that. So I think it's important for parents to seek support for themselves, and say, if you're conveying information about back to school, that if you feel anxious about it, or if you feel angry about it, there's a lot of angry parents out there I've heard on the radio kind of saying, we don't have enough information, that you would talk to a friend or talk to somebody that supports you, rather than express that anxiety or anger with your child.
Yes, I heard you this morning with Pat Kenny on News Talk, where your book is recently released, Love In, Love Out, and I know it's been very successful. You made the point that somewhere in the 1950s, I think things changed in terms of, good enough parenting, that parents need to understand that perfection is not the goal, perhaps, but to be as good as you can in any given circumstance. What do you think has worked well for parents during the lockdown that they might bring with them into the next phase? Because it feels like we're living in a constantly changing phase right now. The lockdown, summer, now back to school. So what would your tips there be?
I think slowing down has worked well for parents. I think, I was asked to write an article for the Irish Independent on Monday, and one of the feelings that I really feel at the moment is kind of nostalgia, maybe a bit of sadness at the fact that school is coming back, and just the fear maybe that things will go back to the busyness that it had been. And many parents, in our last webinar, we did a webinar a number of weeks ago about school being out, and many parents expressed kind of the kind of their realization that things had just become too busy. One parent even said bringing their child to 3 birthday parties in one day and trying to negotiate that. And when you think about that, that was probably the fear of your child missing out on a crucial social opportunity. So I think what parents have really learned over the last few months is that our kids need a whole lot less than we thought they needed. They don't need 10 activities a week. They don't need 3 birthday parties in a day. They were able to survive. We were all able to survive. I know many of us, depending on our own individual circumstances, had real difficulties, but, we were able to survive within a 2-kilometer radius with mostly being at home. And, do we need all the busyness? And for me, that's my fear. My fear isn't as much about the health of my kids. It's more about, will we go back to this crazy life that we were all engaged with before, and kind of knowing now that even not having all those play dates, having one play date, is like, kids really enjoy less. They enjoy less, and they can benefit from less. So I think parents have realized that maybe pausing and taking a step back. One parent actually last night mentioned that she had made a vow to herself that she's not going to do a big long commute every day and sit in traffic. So she's obviously found a way with her employer of actually, and in fact we've been advised now to work from home again, so you know, has found a way of saying, I'm not going to spend my time doing that anymore, it's not worth it.
And I suppose in some ways it's easy to fall back into the trap of the ultra busyness. Do people just need to observe their boundaries now at this time? Is there a chance to establish the new way post the last new way, if you know what I mean, right now? Is this an important time in that regard?
I think it really is, Liam, and I think COVID will help us do that. I know COVID has been negative in so many different ways, but you know, the fact that we're not going back to normal life now could be a positive thing. It could be a positive thing that we can't have all these gatherings, or we can't, you know, my kids are really concerned because both their birthdays are coming up in September, and they're like, well, we can't have parties anymore and whatever. But, you know, I know that they'll be okay. You know, I know that they'll be okay, and we'll kind of manage that together. But yeah, I think, you know, I think it's a good opportunity for us the next while to just, I talked the last time about maybe sitting down, and I said this to my kids in the back of the car the other day. I said, you know, I'm going to miss some parts. I'm going to miss cycling with you, you know, in the sun when we were in the middle of lockdown. Can we do that again? Can we continue to do that, kids? And they were like, yeah, as long as we get an ice cream, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, so
everybody has their price, yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe sit down with your kids and think about, you know, what parts of the lockdown and what parts of the last few months do we want to keep, you know, together. And like another parent mentioned about their little corona bubble, and that being really important to keep the sacredness of family life there, and being aware that our kids do not need all the things that we thought they might have needed.
Okay, Malie, that's great. Thank you very much. It's just to reiterate some messages from last night and to deal with some topics as you have done that were touched on last night. Yes.
Yeah, and just to say, Liam, there was a number of practical things that parents mentioned that they were already doing for their children in terms of the return to school that I just wanted to mention there.
Please do.
Some parents were talking about, say, with their junior infant child, that they know they can't go into the classroom with them. Some parents mentioned visiting the school building, having contact with the teacher, organizing a play date, socially distant play date with, you know, a friend or something like that. Really honest and open communication with their children about any information that they've received from the school, conveying that to their children in a calm way. If their child has a question they don't know the answer to, letting their child know, I don't know the answer, but let's try to kind of, you know, hopefully we can figure that out together. Focusing on what will happen, on the known rather than the unknown. So kind of saying, like one parent said that a school had sent out this poster that said the things that will remain the same in school and the things that will be different. And I love that idea. And that maybe can be a conversation you have with your child about, we know we'll still be getting up at 7. We know you'll be, you know, not wearing, like you'll be wearing a school uniform if you're not. We know this will happen. We know that, but we mightn't know these things, but we will know soon enough. And I suppose that honest, open communication, listening to your child's concerns, trying not to minimize them. And then one parent said that her husband, which was really interesting, said, it's actually good for children to have stress and challenges. And the last few months of COVID have taught us that, you know, kids have been able to face this kind of manageable threat with us there to support them. So even the uncertainty of the next few weeks for parents and for children will actually help to build their resilience. And then just one final thing to end on, Liam.
Take your time.
One parent said, you know, I know it's important to stay strong. I know my children will model how I am. And I know that I need to stay strong and be calm and all of that. But I don't know how long I can stay strong for. You know, what if schools close again? What if my child comes home sick? What if this? What if that? And it was then in yesterday's webinar that I had to kind of go to saying, that no parent is perfect. You do not have to be strong all the time. Yes, I'm saying to you as a professional, but I wanted to say to parents more as a parent, because I had just come in from a frazzled row between my kids in the house just 2 minutes before we started our webinar, that nobody's expected to be strong all the time. And that's why it's important to know what fills your cup, so that so that when in times of stress, you can go, right, I need to ring my friend so-and-so to help me right now and to have a chat. I need to leave the room. I need to go for a walk. I need to do this to help me right now, because we have to kind of maybe figure out a little plan for dealing with the unknown for ourselves. But nobody's expecting that. And even me as a psychologist, I certainly, I'm not strong all the time. And that's why the importance of repair is there, that if there's a rupture, that you try to repair with your child. And that will build their resilience as well.
Okay, very good, Malie. Thank you for that. Lots of good points there. And people can access more information on the planetyouth.ie website and on the YouTube channel as well. As I said last night, we've held quite a few events since the lockdown came in, or the whatever it's depicted as right now. And that is the basis for further events that Planet Youth will be holding over the next few months as well, to support parents in particular during this time. Malie, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Liam, and well done on all your amazing work.
Thank you.
All right.